It's casual, not formal. It's hosted by Rory, Penland, and Renée in tow. It's time to start the show. 1, 2, 3, go!
Okay, welcome to another edition of It's Casual. Let me bring Renee, my lovely co-host, up here. Say
Hello.
hello.
Yes, I love that intro by Diane Call. She actually wrote
Yes.
and did that. And I love watching our guests groove to it the first time they hear it, which I saw today. And it's just great because it's so great. So thank you to Diane Call. We love what you do. Thank you so
And
much.
again, a lot of the guests that come on the show go, that's a great song. It's a great intro song.
It's objectively like an amazing song. She's a great singer-songwriter. It's
So
awesome.
I keep saying I'm going to create some like end credits for you for the ends of the shows for because I have another show that is fixing to come out called Celebrity Spotlight, and Jamie did the opening credits for that, and
Yes.
set all that up for me, and so yeah, so many things, so little time.
I know. Well, I do want to talk about one little thing. It is not a little thing, which is that you are setting next month, you are setting the world record for
How many voices I can do in an hour?
Guinness Book of World Records, which I've been a fan since I was a little kid. You know, this is a big deal for me that I get to direct and produce this, right? Because I said to you, I need to be involved. So you're not breaking a record, you're actually setting the
I'm setting the
entire
bar,
standard. You're
and
setting the
I'm setting
bar.
it high, baby.
And you're and I mean, and tell everybody how hard this is. I mean, like, there's another
Well,
guy out there who did what? I
what
mean,
what happened? Well, there's the only world's record for doing impersonation is how many voices can be done in 1 minute, and a guy did 32 impressions in 1 minute, and it's yet to be beat. I think I can beat that record. Actually, I'm going to try, but that's later.
that's
So
something else
a
to
few
work
months
on,
back, I said, why don't you sit down at your computer and try to type up a list of all the voices you can do? Because you can do quite a few voices. And when I was done with the first list, it was like 535 voices or something like that. It was like 530 voices or so. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. Maybe I should try to see if I can, like contact Guinness and see if I could, do a world record or something. So I checked it out. I looked at their website, and
yeah.
it takes 12 weeks for them to process. You pay $5 to register, and it takes 12 weeks to process.
They're serious.
And by the time, so the first time I just said, you know what, I'm going to do 600 voices. I kept working the list, and I got 600 voices. I said, I'm going to do 600, and you said, hey, do 601 voices.
Just keep pushing the envelope, Rory, because you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, I did the 601 voice challenge, and I did it in like 45 minutes on air. I did actually like 38 minutes in a rehearsal. So I said, you know what, that's it. I was hoping by doing that I could get a sponsor who would pay $1,000 to sponsor me, and maybe get it set up in a comedy club or something somewhere, and then they would process it in 5 days. That's how they get you. But I said, you know what, I'm just gonna set a date, 12 weeks down the line, or 14 weeks down the line. Yep. I'm gonna put my $5 forward, and I'm gonna register, and that's what I did. And I am, at that time, I was going to do 800 voices in an hour, because I thought I could do it, and I thought I could get that many voices on the list. Now I have 871 voices as of today on the list. So I'm going to try to get over 800. How many over 800 I go, I don't know. But that includes like animal noises, elephants. It includes, original characters that I like, General Howitzer. Yeah. Because they're different voices.
Yes. As long as they're different. And I personally think you're going to get like either 1,000 or right below 1,000.
Well,
that's my personal.
Again, I can't do 1,000 in an hour.
I don't want to encourage gambling for anyone who has an addiction, but I do think
But
there's some people placing bets, some very healthy bets with family members about how many you're going to get to. And that's part of the marketing scheme for me, is like, I want to find out how many you actually do. When we don't know. And the cool thing is that you don't even know. So
yeah,
you'll be
well,
finding out with the rest of
yeah,
us.
I haven't rehearsed it yet.
Yep.
I'm hoping I can get past 850 in an hour. That would be something. But we'll
That's
see.
a lot.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, try that. Let's see who can beat that.
Beat that. And then it would be cool if someone did beat that. And then if you came back.
And I'll come back and
beat
do more
that.
voices.
So I just to keep sharpening.
So we've been
those
talking
skills,
about how
yeah.
I'm the man of 1,000 voices now,
Man of
because
1,000
Lon Chaney was
voices.
the man of 1,000 faces. Lon Chaney Sr., the silent movie star. And he only did 50 or 100 movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, he did a couple of different faces in some of those movies.
Yes.
But he didn't get anywhere near 1,000, but he was the man of
No.
1,000 voices. Faces.
That's right.
So I'm the man of 1,000 voices. I think I can safely say that. I'm pretty sure I can do 1,000.
Right. Well, so how do people, people ask me all the time, how can they actually watch this? You're going to be live. We're actually going to beam this live.
We're going to beam this live from Cosmos Creative TV, and we'll be simulcasting on Twitch and YouTube as usual.
Exactly.
I'm going to have a PowerPoint set up like I did with the 601 voices, so you can see it on another camera, another phone camera.
You'll see the characters. So
you'll see the characters as I'm doing them.
Yeah.
I have an 870 something slide presentation in PowerPoint. You'll be able to see it as I'm doing it, as I'm clicking forward and saying the names of the characters myself, and then doing the line of each character. And when we did the 600 voices, it was very entertaining. People really, really enjoyed it. They said that was fun.
Yes,
That was the biggest message I got from everybody. That was so much fun.
It's very exciting because people don't know what you're gonna do next. They don't know which character, and then everyone has an impression of the character and a memory from when, like if you do Barney Fife, we all think about where.
And some of them are like really obscure characters from movies and stuff. So they'll go, oh yeah, that guy, that lady, or that guy. So yeah, it's fun.
It's very fun, and I will say the next step for
Godzilla.
the next step for you is to do the chip eating one, which you only do in the keys. But I think I'm
not going to eat chips for 800 voices. I'm throwing up.
It's just great because the people
Jimmy Stewart.
The people who know what I'm talking about. If they don't, it's Rory Penland doing impersonations, eating chips, and then having the character comment about the chips, and it's the most riveting entertainment you'll ever see.
Every time I go down to my brother's house in the Florida Keys, in the Florida Keys, it's only when I go down there.
It's only that.
I'm down in his guest house downstairs. Yeah, I'll grab a bag of chips, and I will do like a 10 or 15 minute set of impressions of these people eating chips and reacting to it. And I've made notes so that I don't repeat the same characters.
It's
so,
it is
so like one time I did
like
presidents eating chips. That's a very good chip there. Great chip. I like that chip.
It gets the crowd into a hysteria. It's really one of the most amazing things that has ever happened. But
and I do that one on SDF. That's an SDF thing.
That's an SDF exclusive.
So Jake likes it.
That's one of our sister networks. That's Socially Distant Fest. It's on Facebook, and yeah, we love them. Okay, here's the thing.
Okay.
We have an amazing guest behind the scenes. So
I've been talking to her about coming on for a while.
Yeah.
And my persistence paid off. She's here tonight, and she does have a very large body of work to talk about. She's done a lot. She's been very busy. She's living the dream, as we say on the show. When we have actors on it, they've gotten a lot of credits, and they've been working steadily, and she has. And that is Andrea Powell. So let's bring her up. There she is.
Hello.
Hello.
How is everybody?
Oh, we're good. We're good. Where'd you go, Renée? She's saying hello to you too.
I'm still here. I'm doing production. I'm monitoring the comments. So what happens is we have, the fans are going to be commenting. Sometimes I'll put them up on the screen, and if you want to answer them, you can answer them. We do some interactive work with the audience here. So let's see. So fans, we invite you. Get your questions out there if you want to add to the conversation. Here we go.
And we have a lot of fans from Georgia, and you were born in Valdosta.
So, I was, yeah.
So
I was
yeah.
born in Valdosta. And it's funny though, because I grew up in Lake City, Florida. Obviously, that's where we know each other from. And my folks had me at Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta because my dad was retired military, and it was free to go there and have a baby. So basically, they drove from Lake City to Valdosta so they could have a free baby. That was it.
I see people coming in
That's
saying
like
hello.
that's the extent of my knowledge of Valdosta, but yes. And it's funny, it's because it's on my IMDb. People are like, hey, tell me about what it's like to grow up in Georgia. I'm like, beats me. But,
Well, they got a Buc-ee's.
yeah. Well, it's funny,
Pecans.
I work in Georgia a lot because there's a lot of production in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta's like a new,
It's
almost
a new
like
hub now.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wonderful. Savannah as well. I used to live in Savannah. I used to live in that
Savannah's
area,
so
and
cool.
it's so beautiful. And I used to live in Athens as well. But Savannah and Valdosta and Waycross down there, when you get to the swamps, it's really a unique ecosystem, I would say, and it's very creative.
It
A
is.
lot of creatives there, and so we do have a lot of people who are there right now. So hello, Georgia, we love you.
Hi, Georgia. Yeah, and it's cool because I'm like Charleston, which is where Righteous Gemstones is filmed. It's that same kind of thing. You know, you go like Charleston, Savannah.
Exactly.
I don't know, and it's cool because it's like the Florida sort of that we knew. It's kind of that South that isn't.
Well, yeah. When we were younger, they kept saying the industry was going to move to Florida. I've talked to other guests about this, and what happened was that they were trying to beat the unions here.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, the unions got here before they did, and it kind of messed up things for Florida. They kept saying, "Oh yeah, it's going to be the next Hollywood," and I want to talk about this a little later. The same thing happened in North Carolina.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
there was a lot of production up there that you were able to get involved in.
Yep. And it's coming back. You know, I mean, there is more, but yeah, there was a time when it really took a nosedive.
Oh, didn't know that. But again,
no. But
Atlanta.
it was hard. No, but what it was that you know, again, it had to do with how they wanted to treat people locally. You know, pay and benefits and all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was one of those things where how you vote and how you know, get involved politically really does filter down to the actual people who are trying to make their living. So yeah, during that period of time, there were a lot of people who were kind of having to leave their families in North Carolina and go to Atlanta, you know, to work and that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's good, you know, fortunately, people got involved and, you know, started to listen and understand that these are actual real people. So, you know, a lot of the work started coming back to North Carolina. So it's in a good place again. But yeah, it's really interesting to watch production sort of go around, and there's always some, you know, intriguing backstory to it.
Quebec is a hot spot now. They're doing a lot up in Canada now.
Yeah. Canada's great.
So yeah, as you said, we know each other from a little town up in North Florida called Lake City, just under the Georgia border. Yeah. We did plays together.
Oh
in school. You were 2 years behind me in school.
Yep.
And then that we began doing community theater and stuff there as well. Did shows. What are your fondest memories of that period of your life when you were doing live stage?
Man, you know, we had such a cool thing going there. Like, you know, Bob Gerard was our, you know, he was our leader and our mentor. And, you know, I love it that we all got to see each other recently and kind of reconnect. Yes. But we just did shows. You know, that was what I loved. It was just show after show after show after show. And we were this fantastic little quirky weird family, and it would be like, hey, let's do whatever, and you know, I'll play the grandfather and you play the, you know, and it was just we just did shows, and I feel
that's true. There was a lot more females involved in the acting there. So a lot of the females got cast as male characters in shows.
It's true. I think I played a grandfather,
which was fun.
Like Dandelion Wine. I think I played
and Dandelion Wine. My mom played my grandmother.
And your mom was that's
and
right.
She played Colonel Freely. Who talked about buffalo.
That's right. Yeah, no, I loved it. You know, it was just kind of what we did, because you'd go to school and then you'd go to rehearsal or play practice or
yeah.
So,
that great big wooden theater there at the junior high school.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
In the beginning.
And we did all these we did massive shows, like, you know, these huge crazy things. But we just went from thing to thing, and we just thought that was normal life.
Yeah, and you were doing shows before I was. I mean, I moved there in like '78, and you were doing other shows before then.
Yeah, I
you
started
much younger than I did.
12. I think I was 12. I think I
Yeah.
had just turned 12 when I did Oliver and played Oliver. Yeah, my little bowl haircut and angelic cherubic face. Yeah, it was, and it was funny because I go back to pictures of that, and a lot of people who are like, you know, still close friends and all that were in that show. It was like, wait a minute, I didn't know you were in Oliver. So they always tended to have casts of thousands.
I finally got Norm Lewis to agree to come on the show. He's coming on next week.
I'm
And
so
we
glad.
did Grease with him out of the college,
yeah.
the junior college.
Teenager.
And you were Sandy in that show.
I was. I
Yes.
was. And I borrowed Debbie Thomas's spandex pants for the last scene where I come out and, you know, smoke.
There you
And
go.
I think I was like, I know
When
I'm
you're
totally
cool, Sandy.
I was cool. I was Spandy. Yeah.
Spandy.
I think I had like, you know, one drag on the cigarette and like threw up the rest of the night or something, but I was cool.
And you kept that cigarette for Super Mario Brothers.
I did. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Love
Yes,
that.
in Super Mario Brothers, you played one of the princesses that the Dino guys kidnapped.
Yeah.
And
the Brooklyn Babes.
I don't think you had a line in the film, but yeah, you were so memorable because that cigarette was just hanging off your lip the whole time. It was hysterical. Right. They're having a chase scene, and you still got a cigarette hanging in your mouth.
Yeah. When we were going down the ice tunnel, I think there is one line where I'm looking at a Goomba. So the Goombas were these huge characters with the little tiny heads,
right?
And I'm like looking at a Goomba, and somebody says, you know, he turns and goes grr at me, and somebody says something, and I say, well, he's no worse than my boss. It was my idea of a Brooklyn dialect at the time, but yeah, I just remember we had these huge. They had I had this huge teased hair. And they would have to fireproof it every day. Like they would, because there were so many special effects and everything. And at that time, a lot of the stuff like you actually would do, you know, it wasn't all green screen.
Right, it wasn't CGI.
Like we're actually going to set all these things on fire and you're going to run past them. So they would fireproof my hair. Yeah.
Oh man.
That was a blast. So it was like
you had big hair in that too.
I had super big hair in that. And I think it was supposed to, like the whole shoot was supposed to take, you know, 13 weeks or something. And it ended up taking like 35 weeks because so many things went wrong. And we were just calling it Camp Mario because we were, you know, we were just in town and we were the Super Mario people.
And you got to hang out with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo and
Dennis Hopper. We got to be good friends.
Dennis Hopper, man.
Yeah. And he was awesome. Just really cool people. Yeah. So this was a movie version of the video game.
Yes.
And it had all of the characters. Fiona Shaw, you know, was in it. I mean, it had a phenomenal cast.
It did.
And we would go to Fiona's and
Fisher Stevens.
Oh yes, that's right. Fisher Stevens was in it. Yeah, all these great people. But we would go over to Fiona's and read like Shakespeare plays at night, you know. And it was like you be the whatever, and yeah, we were all just sitting around. It was fun. But that was my first movie experience. I thought that was like normal. Yeah. So it was not normal. That's not.
So later on, I was like depressed because we're not.
I know, and I was like, I'm only on this for 2 weeks. What? We're not going to get to like hang out. I know, we're not going to go bowling and stuff. It was fun though. Yeah.
So yeah, that was in the Carolinas, right? That was one of the first ones.
It was. Yeah. So that was shot at the cement factory just outside Wilmington, North Carolina. It was an abandoned cement factory. They shot The Crow there, actually, which is where, you know, sad things happened.
Yeah.
But it was also, I mean, it was like there was asbestos everywhere. There was, you know, we're all like, it's a miracle that, you know, we all have made it for as long as we did because it was literally an abandoned cement factory. But what a cool place to shoot that movie because the movie was this whole, you know, this kind of dystopian future and there's all these, you know, crazy things. So it was a perfect place for that.
Right after that, you scored a role in Matlock, working with Andy Griffith.
Yeah. I was on Matlock I think I was on Matlock three times as like 3 totally different people.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So if you if you followed along with Matlock, because they were just, at that time, they were shooting that in North Carolina because that was where Andy Griffith was from. And he was very instrumental in bringing production to the Carolinas.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where they had just run through the actors. There were only so many of us, down there at the time. So they were just reusing people. So if you were like a fan of the show, I was like the prostitute who then became a lawyer, who then killed her husband. Because, I started as like, background. I'm like the prostitute in the police station or whatever. And then I did a character, small character, where I was a lawyer. And then I did a guest star where I was like the person who had killed my husband.
See, and that's the one I heard about.
Yeah, and have the big scene where he comes out at the end and says, well, we know it was you and all that. But yeah, three times, three totally different people.
Ruby Ray Moore says she loves John Leguizamo.
He's so great,
Mr. Mumble Mouth.
Yeah, and he and actually my husband Paul Ferguson, who was somebody else that we all know and love and worked with, and
Yes.
He actually worked with John on Sexaholics, so we had to spend some more time with them. And it was really funny because they John and Paul had connected through one of Paul's old students who was now I guess worked with John's agency or something. So it was one of those things because we showed up to meet him and it was like, John, and that was a totally separate connection from the one that we had with Super Mario Brothers. So
right.
It was fun to see
well,
him
again, did he remember you from Super Mario
Oh, yeah.
Brothers? Yeah.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together.
Hey, you guys.
Yeah. So, and he's just good people, and one of
Yeah.
those constantly creating minds.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Would
And
love
do
to
it
have him
like
come on the show just to talk
Oh.
about Spawn,
Oh,
which is like the worst experience he ever had in movies, getting into that
Oh, yeah.
fat clown outfit every day.
oh yeah. No, I love that.
Then you did Death in Small Doses with Richard Thomas.
Mhm. Yeah.
You played his girlfriend and he killed his wife. Am I right?
I was the mistress. Yes, I was the mistress. I was the reason why he killed his wife.
Oh,
That was funny. That was probably my first kind of big role, and Sandra Locke was directing. And I
Wow.
remember
Clint Eastwood's
yeah.
been-
Yeah, exactly. So and I had this, and I think she was still pretty mad about all that.
Oh,
So she was a little, on edge. She was a fantastic director, so good. And like everything, it's like I just wanted her to really like me and do well. So there was a scene where I had to. I remember it took place in a kitchen, and I had like 5 lines or something, but it was like a scene where I'm. It's a scene about where I'm trying to say, oh no, we're not involved, and it was just, anyway, it was an awkward scene. But of course, the hardest scene is the one that usually you end up having to do first when you don't know anybody. And I showed up and I was so nervous and I was so bad. I was so bad, and
I don't
she
believe
got me
that.
there, but it was funny. And I remember I got back to the hotel and I called Paul and I said, I got a lot of repair work to do tomorrow, because and I'm sure, I had overthought the whole thing, but yeah, it was a very vulnerable place to be. Turned out it was perfectly fine. The scene was good. She was,
You liked it?
with it and all of that. But yeah, I just remember that as just how green I was, because everything is just like so new.
It was early in your career.
It was early in my career, and I was like the pretty one, it was like that was kind of my role, was just to be sort of, the pretty mistress or whatever. So
I can definitely see that. Empire Records, we can see you in that.
you barely, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why I
I'm
worded
barely
it
in
that
that
way.
movie. Yeah, so Empire Records.
How
I
did that
played-
happen?
I have no clue. So Empire Records, I was playing supposedly like a crazed Mariah Carey fan. And I'm supposed to go to, I go to the record store and I'm buying like all these Mariah Carey, albums. I guess they were 8 tracks. I don't know what was appropriate at the time, but so we get there and my scene is with Liv Tyler and Renée Zellweger. It's like one of her very first movies, and she was super sweet. They were both just so sweet. Liv had a little tiny dog that she always had with her, a little just kind people, very welcoming. So they had spent all morning getting me done up like Mariah Carey. So I have like the Mariah Carey hair, the Mariah Carey everything. And I was like, I loved Mariah Carey. So, and of course, I'm an actor. I'd done like all my research and, I knew all about Mariah Carey and I'd studied.
Good for you.
And so I was feeling, the Mariah Carey-ness of it all. And I remember getting in, we're about
That's an adjective.
The Mariah Carey-ness, yes. It's quality. It's quality. So I get there and I've got lines. It's like a legit scene. And I was a little further along. I knew kind of where to look for the camera and, where to look for the lights and all those kinds of things. So I'm looking for the camera and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Okay. So we'll play the scene, and we play the scene a few times, and its director is like, okay, sweet, let's start. And I still don't see the camera. And this was before like they put cameras in everything. This was like a camera would be like a camera that you would see. I turn around, and on a crane in Cleveland, basically, is the camera. So the scene.
Oh yeah, I went through an hour of makeup. I'm going to be seen.
Oh no, right? It was like, and I was, and in your head, you're like, maybe Mariah Carey will see this, and then I'll be best friends, So,
I would just call that Mariah carelessness. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. I love it. Well, it was, yeah. And who Mariah cares anyway? So anyway, that's my appearance in Empire Records. It's like it sweeps over the store. There it is. That was my appearance. I still get residuals.
But hey, it's a credit. Well, there you go. It's a credit on IMDb, damn it.
Heck yeah. And I think it was like there was a lot of overtime too. So I think it was, so I got to hang out with people a lot.
You played Gene Biggs on American Gothic?
I did. Yeah. American Gothic was fun. I was just hoping that Sean Cassidy was going to be there though. And I was going to get to meet him. Didn't happen because he was one of the producers of it. Yeah. American Gothic was great. I mean, it was a fun show too. I think a lot of shows now are sort of in that vein, Umbrella Academy and these kinds of things that are like a little weird and a little off kilter. But yeah, it was, that was a fun show to be on too. Yeah. Nick Searcy was in that.
Songcatcher.
Oh, love that movie. So Songcatcher. Yeah.
Josie?
So Songcatcher was shot up in the mountains of North Carolina. It was funny. It was all like a New York group that, and Songcatcher was about the idea that that a lot of the music that we're used to hearing, folk music and that kind of thing, and really originated in the mountains of North Carolina. And a lot of these things that had, people had thought it originated in Ireland or wherever, had its provenance in the mountains of North Carolina in these little churches and on front porches and all of that. So I was cast in that again as like the mistress person who, somebody's leaving their wife for. But
typecast.
But I know, but it was a cool movie because the script was amazing. We shot it in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, which, you'd get up at 5:00 in the morning to go to set and you'd just see the sun rising over the mountains and really beautifully shot. And, we went to Sundance and, it got a lot of recognition and everything. But Iris DeMent, who is a well-known Appalachian singer, was in it. And you just sit and listen to these amazing stories.
Well, and this influenced you and your husband too. You actually went out and did live shows, which accentuated the music from that region.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a writer, Lee Smith, who writes a lot of novels that take place up in the mountains, or I should say here. We're actually we've got a little place up in the mountains of North Carolina now. But we got to know a lot of musicians who were very much influenced by that old style. And it's just, you know, it's music that comes from the heart.
We have a lot of songwriters. We have a lot of songwriters watch the show. So if you can name drop a little bit on that.
I know. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, Joe Newberry. Oh, wow. Yeah. Joe Newberry, Mark Hartman, you know, these guys were writing songs specifically for the show and have gone, but a lot of stuff was traditional too, you know, things like the Cuckoo Song and, you know, I Gave My Love a Cherry and all of those things that you've, you know, and the Devil's Dream, which is a fiddle tune. Yeah, that was fun. And also trying to do shows about Southern women that got past the stereotypes, you know, that everybody isn't all big hair and, you know, married a dozen and gossipy. Well, yeah, and gossipy, no. And
okay,
you know,
scratch that one.
It was a way to
That's real.
That's right. Oh, everybody gossips. Did you hear about so and so? No, my favorite thing actually in your intro was something you said about how you're fixing to do a thing.
Yeah, I caught myself when I said it.
I love
it. Was that Pure Lake City or what?
I love it though. And
I'm fixing to.
I know, but I'm real bad about when I go back down there or go and you just start to pick it up again.
You just start, the accent comes back and you just started.
And I'm before I know it, I'm mashing buttons and, you know, cutting on and off the light. And, yeah.
Again, you're Carrie Fisher and you're hanging out with Peter Cushing. You just all of a sudden do a British accent.
You do. Oh my gosh. And that's,
you're Zelig.
It's terrible. I know. But I will. And I'll be talking to people and Paul's like, why are you talking like that? You don't talk like that.
Yeah, I went back to Miami and saw some of my friends who I grew up with, you know, in my early years. And cool. Yeah, they were just laughing because I brought the accent back with me.
I know. Well, and it was funny because, you know, we spent a whole bunch of years, I especially did in New York. And when I'm in New York, I don't have a Southern dialect. I don't, you know, but I think part of it is that when I first moved up there and I started working, anytime you would say y'all, they would like explain things to you twice, you know, so it was, so there was kind of it was like, oh, that's right, you're Southern. So, you know, before I knew it, I was talking about coffee and, you know.
But you did take full advantage of the Southern accent in Bagger Vance.
I did.
Legend of Bagger Vance. You were that snarky lady on the couch there.
I know. Yeah. And my favorite part about Bagger Vance was that Matt Damon got everybody Carhartt jackets with their name on them and like the logo.
Oh.
And like a little handwritten note in the pocket that said, you know,
nice.
Working with you, love, Matt. So, yeah, I wore it like, you know, Spider-Man pajamas forever. It was like I never took it. It was just let the note casually fall out of the pocket. Oh, I'm sorry. What does that say?
He's on Mars right now, but
I know.
But he still loves me. He still loves me.
I know.
He planted a potato in my honor.
He did. And he learned how to embroider my name. I'm sure no one else got one, right?
Worked on Dawsons Creek.
Yeah, Dawsons Creek was.
You were a social worker.
I was, yeah, and Dawsons Creek was great because there was like a bunch of 30-year-olds playing, you know, high school students, and everybody just kind of bought it. But yeah, Dawsons Creek was
like Happy Days in the 11th season. You guys are 50. You just got out of high school.
I know. It was like, well, you're in high school. It was like, really? You're really in high school? But everybody, you know, everybody believed it and went for it. Yeah, that was, you know, everybody had to be on Dawsons Creek, so that was my turn.
I had to do it. Terry Hatcher, Touch of Fate.
Love Terry. Yeah. So and Terry and I actually got to be good friends. We're the same age. So so we were in close touch for a long time. I remember I went out to her birthday party and it was very Hollywood. She was doing Desperate Housewives at the time. So we went out to the party, and I just remember that when at the end of the night they, the valet comes and brings the keys around to, to everyone, and they're like, Ferrari, and 5 people raise their hands, and Lamborghini, and 10 people raise their hands. And when Paul and we rented a car at the airport, and it was like a white Ford Focus. That's us.
Oh,
Yeah, she was great though. Yeah, and that was it's independent film, small thing. But again, the independent films are sometimes where you get your best experiences because they, they're not beholden to the studios, they're not beholden to anything. So that was, and I made a lot of good friends during the course of that show.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Runaway Jury.
Runaway Jury, yeah. Dylan McDermott, that was great. It's all kind of at the beginning where the place gets shot up and drama. That was a lot of fun too. And I think I got to sing a little, Big Rock Candy Mountain or something.
There you go.
From a song. Yeah.
You played Dale Earnhardt's mom.
Oh my God, I've done so much stuff. This is so cool.
I know. I'm trying to bring back all these good memories. This is your life.
I know. Who's behind the curtain? Stop. Yeah, that was cool. That was for ESPN. Like ESPN was doing these, kind of docudrama series and everything. I played Martha Earnhardt, and it was shot in the town where Dale Earnhardt and his family grew up and I got to go to, went to Martha Earnhardt's old house and went to the shop, and, same kind of thing. You prepare, right? Especially, it's really interesting when you're playing a real person. There's a lot of pressure because you want this person to be, especially like in that case, she was a nice lady, and all of that. There wasn't any controversy, but it's difficult sometimes when you're playing real people and it's sensitive.
You want the people that knew them to approve.
Yeah, exactly. And at a minimum to feel like that the character's been respected, because Martha was, she was beloved. So, but one fun thing, oh shoot, what's the Will Ferrell movie about race cars, race car driving?
Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby.
Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights. So, and Jane Lynch.
Ricky Bobby.
Right. So Jane Lynch plays kind of the Martha Earnhardt character in that. And there were 2 things that were funny about that movie, because one was that they dressed her like they dressed me so she essentially had the same kind of wardrobe that I had in the 3 movie. And then the other thing was that, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to look it up. I have to look everything up. I'll think about it. But anyway, there's he had a favorite TV series. Can't remember what it was, but anyway, the guy who directed that was the guy who directed the 3 movies. So there were a lot of callbacks.
Oh, that's funny.
A lot of sort of inside jokes and stuff.
I didn't know that. It didn't even dawn on me. Wow, that's funny. So that's why they dressed her the same.
Yeah,
they were called it the same wardrobe person.
She was essentially Martha Earnhardt. That was kind of.
You played the mayor's wife in Shooting Livian.
I did. So Shooting Livian was done by, it was written and directed by the same person who did the movie that I did with Terry Hatcher. And that was one of those things where it was just like, she called up and she was like, come on over. And it was just like a little thing. I'm playing the mayor's wife. We shot it at, I think the New York mayor's mansion or something like that out in the yard. I don't know if we were supposed to. I don't know that we even had permission, but it didn't matter.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
I know,
You
right?
get a lot of callbacks from people. Obviously, you're a lot of fun to work with.
Well,
That's no surprise to me. But the
it's
people who are watching, obviously, I mean, this is the same with like Clint Eastwood we mentioned earlier. He always gets the same people to come back and do his movies.
yeah.
Tim Burton is
Yes.
notorious for, getting people that are in his early movies to come back and do later and do roles.
Yep.
So that's wonderful.
I know that is nice. It is always nice when you get like I'll get a call from my manager or whatever, and she's like, "Hey, so and so called me, and they worked with you in this thing, and can you come in and do this other thing?" And it's we're all just people. I mean, and sometimes you play big roles, and sometimes you carry a bucket across the yard in deep background. It's all everybody's just trying to make a project.
One of the things we learned when we were acting was there are no small parts, only small actors.
Absolutely. And be nice. Just be nice to everybody.
And be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
enjoy the experience. Be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
It does. And it's just human. It's just human. Everybody's trying to just have a better day, So, and it's interesting because like the huge stars.
If you're a pain in the ass, they're not going to call you again.
No. And don't think that just because they are, bringing you everything and getting your food for you and, chaperoning you around from place to place on set. Don't think it means that you're so special. They just don't want you to wander off. They need to know where you are when they need you. It's really, it's all kind of couched in this, oh, what can I do for you, Andrea?
It really is a business.
I know. Yeah. They just want to know that I'm going to be that I won't see something shiny and, be gone. But no, it's and I love getting to know the crews. And what's really fun is now when I do something and then I see like my hair person from 20 years ago or something like that. It's cool.
That's cool.
Stick around. Yeah.
Little reunion. You had a recurring character, Kim Hayes on Thief.
That was a lot of fun. That was with Michael Rooker. And she was tough. She was like he was the crooked cop, and she was the wife who liked it because it kept her in diamonds and fancy cars and all that stuff. And then he was going to go straight, and I know. And and she didn't like the fact that he was going to go straight. But
that sounds like a character you can sink your teeth into.
So good. So good.
Like candy.
Yeah.
Year Without a Santa Claus.
Love that. So
you're not the animated version, but
no, the live action version.
The live action version.
Shot in Natchitoches, Louisiana.
Wow.
In the heat of summer, as Christmas movies are. Little insider tip, y'all. Every time you see a Christmas movie, they are sweating like you wouldn't believe, because they're all shot in the summertime. Everything's shot in the summertime.
With hot lights.
Well, and we were just in Natchitoches, Louisiana. That was like enough. It was like we were outdoors.
That was it right there.
Yeah, that was
right
a really funny character. And again, she had like her name was Julie Cadlabowski Sanchez. We had given her this whole huge backstory where she was like the local news anchor who was hoping to be noticed so that she could be, big time. We decided that she had added Sanchez to her name because she wanted it to sound she wanted to be a little more diverse.
I wondered about that.
Her name was Julie Cadlabowski. And there was like a lot of fake snow and all that stuff. But that was the first time that I had worked with John Goodman, and he played Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But he had air conditioning built into his suit because it was so hot. Yeah.
Like a space suit.
Oh, man.
And as the heat miser and the cold miser, you got to work with Michael McKean as the cold miser and Harvey Firestein as the heat miser.
And he actually talks like that. He does. Funny. He does. And again, just a super nice guy. It was if for some reason, I don't know, I thought that he was just going to like turn the voice on or something, but no, that's
his real voice.
I know.
I was like, when I worked with Emo Phillips, I was surprised that off stage he does the same voice. He still has the same delivery, and it all sounds that bad.
Funny. Yeah,
So it's like, okay, you can turn it off. You're not on stage now. You know?
right. Nobody's trying.
Well, what are you talking about?
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Cabin Fever 2, Spring
Oh my
Fever.
This is
That
so
looked
crazy.
like it was a fun
Rory,
one.
I love this. I got to tell you, this is like the only time that I think anybody has ever just gone, and what about this one? And I'm like the old person around the campfire, going, well, let me tell you
We
the
want the
story
juicy
about
stories.
the one time. Cabin Fever 2. I can't remember her name. She was great, but she was the owner of the diner, like the
Yeah,
little
she was.
diner. It
She
was
was.
a really
Yeah.
it was and gosh, I would love to see this again. But I remember it was a small part, but she is reacting to a guy whose chest explodes or something, as they were wont to do in the Cabin
That's
Fever
right.
movies. Um, and she's like hitting on all the young guys. She was very scraggly and, had really greasy hair, but we'd put like a big bow in it, because she thought she was super fine. And she was like unzipped a little too far and nobody wanted that.
Again,
But
it looked like it was a fun role to play.
it was, yeah, and a lot of blood, They came in, and when they would come in and dress the set, they would literally use, those like those like pump sprayers that you do weed killer or organic weed killer. Just want to say,
Of course.
or deck spray. I don't know what it is, but anyway, those pump spray. It was just full of blood, and they just come in and just go.
Yeah,
Just do the whole thing.
like the exterminator things. They come around the house with the rod.
Yes.
The Gates. You did a whole season of The Gates before they shut everything down, surprising everybody.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So I played Karen Kresge on The Gates. That was supposed to be a one-off, but then they brought her back and made her a pretty central character, which was fun. Yeah, and that was another thing. We shot that in Shreveport, and we just, it was a summer replacement series, so you would just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. She was great because she was kind of like the Martha Stewart, perfect. Everything was, everything was sort of. But she was like a little too perfect, a little too nosy. But then you discover that she's a werewolf.
She's a werewolf mom.
Yeah, werewolf mom.
So the show was basically about a community of vampires, werewolves, witches. They all kind of move together in the same area to kind of protect each other, but they all are kind of fighting all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a gated community.
Seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, and this was where, so there was like Rona Mitra played, she played the vampire sides. There was always like there was always this cattiness, there's a great scene where we're at a craft fair or something, and she's offering me, a silver choker. I think this would look beautiful on you. And I'm like,
yeah, right.
Maybe you could use a facial, because I'm sure with all the sunscreen that you have to wear, your skin must just be terrible under all that makeup. All that very catty, very funny.
I remember her character was always getting in trouble because she was always biting people that were coming into the community, and then they'd have to get rid of their bodies.
Yeah. She had it, she's hungry. I mean, do what you got to do. So, yeah. And that had the best kind of, so once we learned that we were not going to be renewed, and it was interesting because things were shifting at the time, and more people were streaming. More people were like DVRing things, and that was like, so, but the ratings at the time didn't quite know how to account for the fact that people weren't watching it at the actual time. And I think we were like 9:00 on a Sunday. I mean, we got the Desperate Housewives spot. It was a great spot. Yeah, and it was on ABC and all that. But when they were doing the ratings, our ratings looked terrible. But then when you added in all of the streaming and the people who were, and it wasn't streaming, I guess it was DVR. When you added in all the DVR people, it was actually a top show each week. It was just the kind of guilty pleasure that people would record, not watch it live. And plus it was a school night, and then they would watch it at some point during the week. They didn't quite know how to account for that, and
Right.
the decision was made in large part on numbers. But
Those pencil pushers.
trying to make money off their shows, what? But it was.
Canceled it.
But the fun thing is that the writers gave every character like a little Valentine, a little fun thing to do, and I think you have the photo that I had sent you that TV Guide had where I'm tearing the throat out of a child. That was.
Let's go ahead and show that. I was going to show that after we talked about everything, but let's go ahead and show the pictures that we.
Well,
put
just to give a little context. So this was
there it
Karen
is,
Kresge.
right there.
So a couple of fun things about this. I love the fact that she has her pearls on and all of that stuff. But there is the mother of the child has a nightmare that that Karen Kresge comes in and bites her daughter, tears the throat out of her daughter.
And this is actually a dream scene. So they never ever really solidified the fact that you were a werewolf. The son was definitely a werewolf.
Well, no, they did. Now in previous in previous episodes, there was the scene that, well, there was actually a whole episode where you see my eyes go gold, and you find out that we're actually, you find out that we're actually werewolves.
Okay.
And the
I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah, there's.
I watched the whole season.
Well, and I think IMDb, my IMDb has pictures from that, but anyway, so she rips the throat out of the daughter, and then everybody wakes up, oh my gosh, it was just a dream. But shooting that scene was so much fun. So that was like the little thing that they gave me that was fun to do. And the little girl who played the daughter, she was a trip. She was like, this is so exciting, this is the best day ever, and she was like laying there with her throat torn.
Kill me.
I know she was
tear
great.
my throat out.
I know. But pups gotta eat. You gotta
werewolves gotta eat.
Yeah. But the eyes were interesting because those were contacts and they each cost like $5,000. And
oh wow,
we weren't allowed to touch them. You'd have to just sit there and they'd put them in.
They would put them in for you.
And then it was actually ended up being the same person who did my Twilight eyes. So.
Oh, again, you just bump into it's small world.
Just so random.
All right. Next photo is probably Twilight is my guess. Yeah, this is Sasha.
Yeah, this is Sasha. So and I had lilac colored contact lenses. In this one. And there is one woman in LA who does these. They're hand painted. In the gates, I had a wolf that I was like a real wolf that I was kind of assigned to, who I, got to watch and, because you want to do wolfy things.
Yes.
And they were, so my eyes, the contacts were painted like his eyes. And then Sasha, the tribe or whatever, the coven of vampire that I was, they had lilac colored eyes. So it was the same woman. And she was the one, her first big gig was she did the Michael Jackson Thriller video. And did his eyes for that. So she's kind of the go-to for.
People say that's a werewolf, but I'm saying it looks more like a cat creature.
It's like a kitty cat. A really like a
a very scary kitty cat. Don't get me wrong.
Very scary kitty cat. But,
The next picture is also of you as Sasha, but it's a little different one.
Yeah. So
it might be a little lighter too.
Sasha was a lot of fun. So shooting Twilight, of course, a lot of security. We had, I think, Elvis's security team. Like they were serious. And when they would pick me up at the hotel, the van had, like Finkelstein family reunion on the side of it or something. Like, take us to a secret location. And they were shooting both Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2 at the same time.
Right.
So we were shooting this stuff in the back field behind a prison, an hour outside of Baton Rouge.
Oh, wow.
And then and there would be paparazzi in the trees. There would be, you know, we had, they didn't want anybody to see because they knew they couldn't keep all the cameras away. Because these, you know, folks were pretty good at
Right.
this. They're good at getting pictures of people on sets.
Yeah.
And they were never like, you know, scary or creepy or anything, but they were trying to protect the, you know, they didn't want to leak pictures of the costumes.
They didn't want to get the secrets out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So the costumes and the characters and stuff.
So we all had this big plastic green poncho that you would have to wear, called the cloak of secrecy. And we would wear the cloak of secrecy from, you know, from our dressing room to the sets. Nobody could see the thing, but it was fun because they were all, you know, they were shooting all the other stuff like over on another set, but they'd have to be quiet and stop while we were shooting our stuff, because our stuff was all screaming and fires and those kinds of. But
yes, Robert Pattinson was actually very impressed with your death scene.
He was.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, so we actually ended up in makeup together, and he was, and this was after I sat next to Taylor Lautner when we were having hair done, and I remember like a little lock of his hair kind of fell on my knee, and I was thinking, I could totally eBay that. Yeah, so Rob and I were sitting next to each other in makeup, and I introduced myself, and he was like, "Oh, I know, you know, we've been listening, and we've been listening to the scene, and I'm so jealous of everything you get to do, because you get to do all of these fun things, and we're listening to them, and all I do in these movies is look and occasionally appear to be moved." And he was just the funnest.
He's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, and Kristen Stewart was super sweet too. They had, you know, kind of carved her off. She had her own dressing room and her own everything, but she would always break through that door and come back over, and, you know, she wanted to hang out with people, and she was, yeah, really down to earth and fun. But yeah, that was a lot of fun to shoot. So, and then years later, my husband and I were on a plane. We had talked our way up into first class or something, and they had the iPads that was showing the movie, and then you'd have Bose headphones. Yeah. So Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 was on there, and we were taking advantage of the free drinks, and we would just fast forward to the scene where I get my head ripped off and thrown on the fire. So we were just going
and just laugh.
Oh, laughing. And of course, like running our finger going, head up, having a hilarious time that we were told to be quiet, that the other people, you know, were not, you know, they were trying to sleep because it was probably, you know, late and everything. And then of course, Paul was like, no, that's my wife. And they were like, they're crazy too. So. You're
scaring the straights. And Ender's Game, you got your own card here with your autograph on it. That's on eBay everywhere.
I know, you can. And I've made tens of dollars off of that.
Yeah, really. You don't make any money off of that. Somebody does, but you don't.
Yeah,
but you were the mom. Cool. You were the mom in Ender's Game.
I was, yeah. Ender's Game was really cool. I loved the books, and yeah, and
with Harrison Ford,
super nice guy. And so there's the scene where they come and they take him away, you know, and all that stuff. And he was great too. I mean, everybody, you know, Viola Davis, and again, just kind of a ridiculous cast. But you're there, and you're just people. You're just people working and doing a job. And at some point you look across and you go, oh, that's Harrison Ford. Oh my God. But no, just really nice. And the thing I loved most about him, just speaking to his kind of generosity as an actor and a person, was he, there was that scene where they come and they take Ender away, and they didn't know where in kind of my character's arc it was going to play. So they had me do it a bunch of different ways, from just like straight neutral to breaking down, sobbing, crying.
Right.
and they didn't know what they were going to use, you know, so we had to
They
do
liked it
all
all.
these different shades of that. So we did the whole thing. So for like, you know, half the day, it was that kind of thing. And it was it was exhausting. So, we get off set. We're all walking in Harrison's in that scene, and we're kind of all walking off set. And I said something, but yeah, she's unbelievable. So cool. But we're walking off set to take a break, and I had said something like, "Oh my gosh, somebody tell me a joke," you know, just kind of flipped it out there. Ha ha! I've been crying all day. Somebody tell me a joke.
Make me laugh, please.
Made me laugh. So we're walking off the set, and I'm behind him, and he turns around, and I'm step out of his way because I assume he forgot something, and he steps with me, and he goes, "So there are these two blondes," and he tells me a fantastic blonde joke to make me laugh, and it was pretty funny, and
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
So again, I think the takeaway, because we're at 1 hour now, I think the takeaway is that can we show that picture real quick of the Brooklyn babe? It's the very last picture. There's Ender's Game again. There she
Brooklyn
is.
Babe, there she is.
The cigarette in hand. Okay. You are at these places, getting ready, you're getting into character, and you're an actress, not necessarily a method actress. You're just an actress, you know, you just do your thing.
Yeah.
Method actors are catching a lot of flack lately. I don't know what it is, but lately I've been seeing a lot of stories about method actors being a pain in the ass to everybody around them.
Well, I mean, I've trained method, and I could, you know, I could go on and on about that. But yeah, it is acting.
You know, by all, please just try acting, my dear boy.
That.
Laurence Olivier, famous line to Dustin Hoffman, who stayed away for like 3 days for one of his roles.
I know. Yeah.
But
So
you're experiencing this. You're there in the middle of it all, and you're saying to yourself, "Man, am I lucky? This is great. I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm working with these great people, and wow,
yeah,
I'm just lucky."
It's unreal. Yeah, and it's funny because I have a recurring on The Resident now.
I'm going to ask you about that real quick.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and she's great, and it's good because now I'm at the point in my career where I'm not like, I don't have to be like the, you know, pretty mistressy kind of, you know, any of that anymore. You just get to be kind of like a human being, and there are a lot of great roles for older women now, which I'm, you know, grateful for. But also, having a little mileage is always a good thing. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. And
like I said, you're easy to work with, and everybody, I think, knows that.
Well, and you know, it makes everybody's day better.
You're fun to
and it
work
makes
with.
the day go faster. Thank you. But yeah, every time I'm on that set, and now I just naturally know what to do. You know, you naturally do the things, and I'm not nervous anymore, which is a nice thing. But yeah, lucky every time it happens. Every time. Oh my God. No, seriously. Always. But at least I'm not shaking and unable to do my best.
So what else do you got going right now other than The Resident?
You know, doing that thing you do when you're an actor. You audition and you work, or you try to get work. And that's kind of where we are. You know, it's there's a lot of new shows coming out, a lot of stuff in the wind, but yeah.
Hightown?
Yeah, man, Hightown was that. I hope they bring Officer Coyle back. That role was written for a very large man. So of course I was the first person that they thought of. And they brought me in to play that Cape Cod security guard. Yeah.
Got balls. That one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh my gosh. I
again,
could talk
I've been
to you
trying
forever, obviously.
I've been trying to get
You
you
just
on
need
for
to
a
hang
while. I'm
out.
so happy you agreed to come on. And again, Norm next week. So this has been a great month for me.
I know, I can't wait.
That reunion you talked about earlier, that was over a year ago, believe it or not. Time has just flown by. It's been like a year and 2 weeks.
Oh my
So yeah,
gosh.
time has just flown by. So it's good to see you again. So good to see
You
you.
too. Well, and we need to
And
come down and hang out. Paul sends his love to you and your
yeah,
family.
please tell him I said hey, and much love to you and him. And again, I'd love to see you guys again.
We'll do it.
Anytime you get down here, let us know.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and Rory, you were instrumental in helping me become the actor that I am, because just being able to work opposite you and
Oh wow.
all of the stuff that you would give and how deeply you're into your characters, and and I love that you're still doing all of that too, because no, seriously, but it's, you can't be an actor and get any better unless you've got really awesome foundational times, and you were certainly part of that foundation, so thank
Well,
you for
like you
that.
said, Bob and Paul and others we worked with earlier on are definitely big influences in us doing what we've done with our lives.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
So let's act together again sometime. I would love that.
Oh man, I wish I could. I wish I could free myself up and have the time to do that again.
We'll do like a Zoom read through of something.
Well, there you go. I love that. I do that on Monday nights usually
Yeah, see, there you
with
go.
my writers group. Okay, well, again, thank you so much for having Renee, are you still there? My gosh.
Yes, this was wonderful. Thank you
I
so
run
much.
everybody off.
Have
They're
a
like,
wonderful
she's so
night.
Southern. Why won't she stop talking?
I know, no, it's a wonderful thing. We could have done like 3 hours. It was so.
I know.
Well, we'll have to get you back on again soon.
Anytime.
Talk more about your acting philosophy.
Oh my God.
'Cause
Yeah.
we picked through your TV and your
There are
movies
just
most
so
of it.
many stories. That's the thing. Oh my gosh. But thank
All
you for
right.
this retrospective and this recap of my career. I haven't had the pleasure.
Well,
of
and
doing
it'll
that
be on
as well.
YouTube for anybody who wants to see it. So, and I hope a lot of people will view it. I think they can learn a lot about the business from listening to what you said here today. So,
thanks.
All right, everybody. Good night. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again, Andrea. I can't thank you enough. Give Paul a big hug for me. And good night. Much